Hello everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, Regina and Michelle, to be here at the CIVIS Days. I would like to talk about the experiences of Afghan refugee women who are here in Germany and their experiences with technology, and relate this a little bit to the notion of home. So we are here at the CIVIS Days in Germany, where we have a very large Afghan diaspora. So at the beginning of 2022, we had around 240,000 asylum seekers from the country, and it's rising because of the takeover of the Taliban in Afghanistan and the flow of migration towards Europe. And in mid-2022, I conducted a study with Afghan refugee women in Frankfurt, together with the organization ZAN for the rights of Afghan women in Frankfurt in Germany. And we were talking about technology and how they use technology to communicate, for example, with their family back home, and also their lack of digital literacy, for example. I would like to talk a little bit about that and what it means for making a home. So a little bit about the situation of Afghan women in general. So in Afghanistan, there is a very conservative and at times a pretty strict gender regime, which means that women are supposed to be in the house. They are supposed to take care of the children in the household. They're not supposed to work or be educated or educate themselves. And this is particularly radical under the militant Islamist group Taliban. Sometimes women are not allowed to leave the house without a male guardian at their side. And as a result of their oppression, Afghan refugee women have very low literacy rates when they come to Germany. So all in all, 30% literacy among the women compared to 50% for the men in Afghanistan. And I would like to make three cases about the experiences of technology and home for these women. So the first case would be technology has a liberating role. So as I've said that Afghan women in Afghanistan are very much confined to the home, and when the home is a prison, technology can be a window into the outside world. So it can be a form of liberation to know what's going on in public life, to communicate, to get information, to educate yourself. The NGO Code to Inspire is a coding school for Afghan women and girls. And the founder, Fereshteh Furu, was just here 2 weeks ago at the University of Tuebingen for a symposium. And she is providing education for women because she says technology is a way for those women to empower themselves, to make a living, for example, as graphic designers, designing images and videos for websites without having to leave the house, right? Under these very strict conditions that they're facing, it is an opportunity to empower themselves. But of course, this opportunity is only available to people who are already privileged, who already have access to hardware and the digital literacy skills or literacy skills at all. The second case I would like to make is the mediating role of technology, mediating between homes. So mediating between the old home, Afghanistan, and the new home, Germany. Afghan refugees communicate via social media with their families back home. In the study that I conducted, we talked especially about WhatsApp and IMO, but also other apps that they are using to video call back home. And it was interesting, the women all said it's especially important for them to have privacy and safety when they communicate via social media. And this is on the one hand because of their persecution by, for example, the Taliban and other groups, but it is also because of the strict gender regime. So for example, some apps allow people to contact you although you don't know them, right? So you could send a direct message to someone you don't actually know, and this is a problem for the women because it is seen as unfaithful behavior to actually be connected to someone outside of the closer family. So there have been conflicts in the family because husbands or brothers or fathers perceive women interacting in social media as inappropriate behavior. So there is a limitation in what technology can do in terms of mediating, and there are specific needs that Afghan women have in safe communication. And the third case I would like to make is that technology can have an enabling but also a disabling role in the social inclusion and integration of Afghan refugee women in Germany. So there is a lot of hype around using technology and apps, for example, to provide information about language classes, information about administration, bureaucracy. But in the study that we conducted, it became very clear that apps are not often geared towards the skills that Afghan women bring. So for example, apps can be very much text-based, and some of the women in the study were not able to read and write. So this is a clear barrier to using this technology for social inclusion. Another thing we observed is that many of the women did not have email addresses or didn't know how to create an email address. And many apps require you to register in the app with an email address. And then one finding was also particularly interesting. These services, digital services that are provided, for example, by the German government, they're often one-way communication. So you get information, but you cannot talk back. You cannot ask questions. You cannot ask for real-time assistance. So what really matters to the refugees I spoke with is that they get lost at the intersection and they need to talk to someone. They need to pull up an app and say, how can I get to my appointment? I'm here, I'm stuck, and you need immediate feedback. So these would be some of the needs that Afghan refugee women have in terms of using technology. And so the question here becomes, when you're trying to make a new home, is technology rather enabling or disabling? And it really depends on how the technology is designed and how the perspectives of marginalized groups are taken into account when designing those technological solutions. And so just as a concluding remark, I think it's interesting and relevant to look at the experiences of marginalized groups, because for them often experiences with technology are very different from our experiences. And also the meaning of home can be very different. Thank you.